โอเคอยู่นะครับถ่ายทอดแล้ว
ครับนมัสการพระอาจารย์ครับ and good morning Vancouver good morning Seattle and also good evening in Thailand and welcome to the program of the Dhamma for Life which is under the operation of the page of Wat Atam under the page of Atam Mayatarama in Washington, USA. Also the Wata Panya Panya in Vancouver, Putta Panya Nantaram in Vancouver. Today I have brought the topic of the truth, the law of the nature, which is one of the truth that we have to contemplate in the Buddhism, especially when we want to see the truth, we want to see the law of the nature, we want to see how our life is and what is the composition, what is the component, life component, and in what ways the life is supposed to be. In order to understand that, we have to scan, we have to contemplate what they are. Refer to the three characteristics of all existence, or we can also call us the law of the nature, which is that has been along with our life. As we know, it has the three characters or the three natures of all things, and that is the first one is the what we call in Pali is anicca, or if it is called as the characteristic of the existence. The first one is the anicca laksana, or the impermanent nature, and the second one is the dukkha laksana, that is all things are being subjected to the suffering, and the last one, which is the most important one, and it's very hard to be seen even through the insight meditation or the vipassana, that is the anatta laksana, which is referred to the English terminology as the anatta laksana, the self, non-self nature of all being or all things. So these are the three natures of all things, or what we call as the three characteristics of all existence. We will go one by one today in order to understand the feature or the nature of it, and also what's called for up all these three characteristics, and what happened if these three characteristics not being seen or not being recognized or realized, or whatever we call it, in order to living the life along with the nature, with understanding the natures so that we can set up even a new knowledge, the new standard of life when we understand who we are actually is. So back to the Buddha time, or even before the Buddha time, the Brahma or Hindu Brahma taught about two characteristics of the natures, which is only the impermanent nature and the suffering nature of all existence. The teaching of the impermanence and the teaching of the suffering has been really popular, taught even before the Buddha time, and it has been really very more popular during the after the Buddha was existed. That to the Buddha time. The reason that the topic has been taught more widely because the Buddha taught the third characteristics of the nature, and that is anatta, or the non-self, which is it was the teaching that against the law that the Hindu Brahma taught about atta, or self. And actually the anatta, or the non-self, has been only thing that the Buddha taught in addition to the impermanent, or anicca, and also the suffering, or dukkha. So in Buddhism, the Buddha taught about three characters, not only two characters, which has been taught widely in the Hinduism or the Brahmin during that period. And during the Buddha time, Buddha tried to introduce the idea of anatta, or the non-self, and always questioned by Brahm, or what we call the Paripashika. So we will see one by one in order to understand the nature, the law of the nature, or the three characteristics of all existence, which is the first one we will talk in detail today, that is the anicca laksana. How it is explained in order to clearly understood, and how we can scan, how we can see this nature, especially during the meditation or the contemplation, or even not during the meditation, in the routine life. If we recognize that everything is not permanent, everything is only just temporary, and it's always change in each moment, in each and every moment, things are changed. we will see that everything is under the state of changing. We are aging. We contemplate that who we are today is different from who we were yesterday, and who we are today will be different who we will be tomorrow. And that is how to contemplate about aging under the impermanent nature. And it's not only we, but everything, including the material, even non-material. There is always internally change and externally change. And that is actually subjected or leading to the suffering. We suffer, and that is because of things are under changing. Everything is a temporary being. If everything is stable or if everything is permanent, we will not be suffer. And if we contemplate that the all things, especially the sankhara or our life, which is consists of the body and mind, are under changing in single moment. If we scan little deeper, we see that not only the body that get age, that ill and finally die, but also the feeling, or we call it vedana, is also rising and falling or rising and passing in a single moment. Our memory or the perception is not permanent, never. Sometimes we remember, sometimes we don't, in a single moment. Our mental formation or the thought is sometimes rising. When we are thinking of something, we are forming, and that formation disappear and appear, reappear, always. Even our own consciousness, or what we call mind, thing that we always perceive, is always rising and falling. That means all the five aggregates, which is the rupa and nama in short term, the body and mind, the physical body is aging and dying in each and every moment, feeling the vedana, the perception, the sanya, the sankhara, the mental formation, and also the vinyana or consciousness and the mind itself are never be permanent. But it's very hard to see for the ordinary people that living with them and see them very permanent and attached to it. Today we will talk about what are covering up those truths. I mean the anicca laksana, the impermanent nature. Why we cannot see it, that things are not permanent. There must be something covered up. And that is first thing that was being covered is the anicca lakkhana or the impermanent nature. The santati, the continuation, or we call it in Pali santati. It's a condition that's masking the truth, the first truth, the impermanent nature. But because of the continuation of the things that rising, the continuation of rising and falling are very fast, very fast. And that's why we cannot see that it, something or everything are under change, under changing. But if we are still enough, we are in peace, especially in the insight meditation or even in the samatha or concentration meditation, we are able to disclose the truth, that everything is actually changing, everything is actually rising and falling, nothing is permanent. So the continuation of the rising and falling at very high speed of rising and falling, which is called the santati. That is the thing which cover up the impermanent nature of all existence. And that's why we see that everything is so permanent. And actually that was making us attached to the things. Because we don't see the truth. What we see is untruth. But under the contemplation, under the study, the theory of the nature, we can contemplate that, and we can disclose that by ourselves through the process of the meditation. And that is the way, actually has become the way to what we call it, cut off the continuation of the santati. The craving is the cause of the santati, or the tanha. The craving is a cause of continuation. Once we can demolish or eliminate the craving, and that's how the continuation has been demolished as well, the santati. So actually, under the process of the insight meditation or the vipassana, we are able to scan the rising and falling. There is the simile that of the fan, the electric fan, that once we turn on, it's moving, it's spinning very, very fast. So we can see, just like the circle, only one circle, only one big propeller. But once we unplug or turn off the electric fan, we will see that there are actually 3 propellers. That is the simile or the example of the santati, understanding the santati, the first or understanding the first nature of all things. The speed, the very high speed of the fan when we turn on, that cover up the truth of only one propeller of the fan. The benefit of understand this truth is about attachment. Once we see this truth, once we understood clearly about this truth, this nature, it will enable us to detach from what we previously attached to. But this attachment will not be happen in a moment, but it will slowly detach from our mind. Because if we still clinging or attaching to the things that are being degenerated or deteriorate or changing even, we will be disappointed, we will be dissatisfied, and that is suffer. in the other side, after we seeing this truth, this nature of changing, this nature of instability, instead of attaching, we are detaching, try to get away from something that's changing because it's not safe. It's not secure to attach, to hold, or to cling. There's something that should not be depend on, should not be relying on. The nature of the mind will change that we usually to attach to it. The nature of the mind will the opposite direction, that is attaching, trying to get away from something that we used to cling on, and that is the result of understanding the true nature of life, the true nature of all existence. And this is the cause of what leading to understand the suffering, the second nature of all existence. Everything is so impermanent. Everything is always changing. Everything is rising and falling. Nothing is stay stable. Nothing is remain stable. And that is leading to the suffering, for sure. But why we are not seeing that we are suffering? Why we are not so much realizing that we are actually under the stage of what we call suffering or tukkhang? And that's because of the movement. We always move, we always change the position. We always change the posture. When we feel that we are having a pain, muscle pain, especially when we are practicing the meditation, we try not to move, and that's how the pain appear. And then we move because we cannot tolerate to the pain. But that is only in the meditation. Thinking back about non-meditation, outside the meditation, we always changing the position from one to another, on and on. We always in the movement. We never pause. We always keep running. We always keep playing, replay. And that's why we don't feel that we are suffer. And always we plan ahead that we are going to move from one post to another post. and that has become the habit, the habituator, that we have to move, we have to go on. All the life activities today is in the process of covering the suffering. So the way to see the suffering is being still, being tranquil. The tranquility will disclose this truth. Thinking about when you do sitting meditation, you will have a knee or back pain or shoulder tightness or hips or whatever, especially happen with the beginners, the meditation beginners. You always experiencing very simply suffering, and that is actually direct experience. And it's very good when you feel that you are in suffer or you are suffer. You should contemplate that your own suffering. Investigate what this suffering come from, when it's arise and when it's past. So that means the movement, or what we call it, aliyabhata, is something that is the thing that cover up the nature of the suffering. And that's why we don't feel that we are suffering. We feel that we are happy. We feel that everything is can be happy. And that kind of feeling, the sukha vedana, has been a wonderful thing that we are looking for. And once we got it, we try to own it. We're trying to occupy that kind of feeling, the happy feeling, the satisfaction, the pleasure. But actually under behind the happiness is the suffering. Even the suffering itself or the happiness itself, they are under the law of the nature that they are not permanent as well. The second nature is under the first nature. Being regulated by the first nature. That is the impermanent nature. And the impermanent nature also regulated naturally by the suffering, because it's rising and falling at all time. It never remains. It's always changing. That's how it It's going back and forth between the impermanent nature and the suffering nature. But without the studying, without the investigation, we will not able to recognize this true nature of our existence, including the suffering and the impermanent natures. But through the process of the concentration meditation and also the insight meditation, it will disclose this true nature more clear than outside the meditation. Understanding that everything are being subjected to the suffering and accepted this kind of fashion, this kind of nature, we're not attached to. Because something is under the stage, the stage of suffering. We don't like to. Nobody try to lead themselves to the moment of the suffering. That is very common nature of all being, especially the animal being like we are. We try to reject. We try to be away from the suffering. And that's leading to the detachment, because we are understanding everything is leading to the suffering. But this will not be happen easily. It has to be slowly. It's become a slow process of detachment, because we were born and we have a wrong perception of that who we are. We are self. That is the next topic that we have to go to scan and investigate in detail of it. So these are two natures that has been taught by many teachers in a different school of the Hindu or Brahmin during the Buddha time. In order to get themselves free from the impermanent nature, free from the suffering, the Hindu and Brahmin taught that we have to be close to what is called Ataman, or even higher Brahman. And that is the thought of, that is the teaching of Hindu and Brahmin about Atta, about the self, about the selfness. And they describe that it is the highest stage, the highest phenomenon of what is called Atta, the Brahman, or Ataman. But once the Buddha exists, the Buddha introduced the idea of non-self, anatta. So the third characteristics of all existence was discovered by our Buddha, our Lord Buddha. And that is the greatest, the biggest discovery. And it's known as Trilakhana, or the three natures of all existence. That has been a major teaching in the Buddhism, which go beyond the Hindu and Brahmin philosophy or the teaching. So the Buddha goes over, the Buddha goes deeper. And the teaching of anatta has become the highest, the greatest knowledge in the Buddhism regarding to the nirvana or the nibbana, the liberation, the emptiness, the sunyata. But it's not very easy to see or to understand or to perceive the anatta. The great knowledge of anatta or non-self has become what is called the wisdom, the highest wisdom that can, if one can understand, one can clearly understand about the concept of anatta, that is considered as the one who having a really panya, or the wisdom, and that can be leading the one who understood to the liberation, the freedom. So the birth of the Buddha, or the existence of the Buddha, was really great, announce or declare the liberation of the human being, the greatest being in the world. And that was what we call inภาษา Thai, Apisavaja. Because of the concept, because of the knowledge of anatta, that's why the Buddha could become a greatest teacher of the world. You free from the birth, you free from the death. That means you free from the suffering. And that is anatta. That has been mentioned in the Anatta Lakhana Sutra, one of the most important teaching of the Buddha, beside the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. The great teaching of the Buddha after the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta is the Anatta Lakhana Sutra. But we cannot recognize easily, we cannot recognize or we cannot see easily the Anatta Lakhana or non-self nature. because we have a wrong perception, and that wrong, the false or the wrong perception, that is called kana sanya. Kana sanya is a Pali term translated into English as a self perception. The perception of the self that is become a really common nature for the ordinary person who not practice the meditation. We so much attached to that idea. We so much attached to the idea or the concept, and that is atta. Kana sanya, or the self perception, is nothing else but it is atta. So what I mean to explain, what I mean is atta is actually just perception, just the concept. It's a false convention that happen in the mind of the people that do not practice the Dhamma. So we thought that we thought that we thought that who we are, we thought that we are having self. So we feel we enjoy the feeling of self. We enjoy the feeling of the bigger and bigger self. That is another problem. We call it mana. I am better than you. You are better than me. I am richer, much richer from you than you. You are very poor. This kind of comparison, this kind of judgment is always happen because of the kana sanya, the false self-perception. But under investigation, under contemplation, you can break this. You can break this kana sanya. I remember one sutra called Vashila Sutra, that there's a discussion between the Mara and the Vashila Bhikkhuni regarding the atta and anatta by comparing to the car, that if you separate, if you split on part of the car, you will not see the car. There will be only steering, tire, wheel, bumper, engine, and fan, alternators. The concept of the car disappear because it's just the car is just the concept, or we call banyat atta. So atta is something not true. It's never be a true atta. It's just a spoken word for the one who not understand the truth. So the thing around us when we not scan or investigate, we will see we always understanding this is self. But if you are understanding through the way investigation, you're able to break up that idea. So atta is actually the false concept, or the concept actually. It has become a condition, it has become a convention that this is my father, this is my wife, this is my son, this is my car, this is my house. These are actually condition or convention. And that's why we call it conventional things. สมมุติ in convention. It's not the truth. The truth is non-self. There is no atta. We see everything as self because we never investigate the natures. But under the concentration or the insight meditation, we are able to disclose, even though we are able to eliminate the idea of self, or the self-perception can be demolished through the process of the meditation, especially insight meditation. The four foundation of mindfulness, one of the process that can disclose the nature of all things, especially anattalakkana, the non-self nature of all existence, can be disclosed through the contemplation in the anapanasati or satipatthana, the four foundation of all existence, the four foundation of the mindfulness, I'm sorry. The benefit of understanding Anattalakkana Sutra, that is the benefit of understanding anatta, we will see that this thing, that thing, those things, these people, that people are not belong to us. Everything is non-self. There is saying in Pali, sapphe dhamma anatta, sapphe dhamma anatta. Everything is non-self. So we are attaching to something that's non-self, and that's why we are more suffer. The self, the atta, is not the truth. The atta is not actually self. What I will say is that clearly is there is no atta, but there is the wrong perception of atta. When you perceive the wrong concept, the wrong idea. That is the atta. There is no self. So there is no atta actually. But there is speaking of atta because of there is a concept of atta. And that is what we call it banyati or sammuti. Sammuti Dhamma ในภาษาไทยเราเรียกว่าสมมุติธรรมหรือบัญญัติธรรมมีเท่านั้นเองครับอัตตาไม่มีอยู่จริง There is no อัตตา truly ไม่มีจริงๆแล้วไม่มีอัตตามีแต่ความไม่เข้าใจในอัตตาความไม่เข้าใจที่เราเรียกกันว่าอัตตาทิฏฐิ the misunderstanding the wrong perception is concept เพียงอัตตาเป็นเพียงบัญญัติศัพท์ขึ้นมาจริงๆแล้วไม่มีอะไรเป็นตัวเป็นตนไม่มีอะไรเป็นอัตตาเลยแต่เกิดเป็นความคิดที่ผิดพลาดการมองไม่เห็นความคิดเห็นผิดว่ามีตัวตน That is the problem นั่นแหละคือปัญหาครับ So what we have to eliminate what we have to demolish is not อัตตาผมกำลังจะบอกว่าสิ่งที่เราจะต้องละมันไม่ใช่อัตตาเพราะว่าอัตตามันไม่มีอยู่จริง There is no self สิ่งที่เราต้องละคือความคิดว่ามีตัวมีตนนั่นคือสิ่งที่เราต้องละสิ่งที่เราต้องสืบสวนให้เข้าใจสอบสวนให้เข้าใจแล้วเราก็ต้องละมันคือความคิดผิดว่ามันมีตัวมีตนต่างหากนี่คือสิ่งที่เราจะต้องละ Try to make sure that you guys are understanding. So sometimes I have to translate into Thai because the atta, the knowledge of atta, the knowledge of anatta is very high teaching of the Buddha. So atta is not the defilement. อัตตาไม่ใช่กิเลสเพราะฉะนั้นเราละไม่ได้ครับอัตตาไม่มีอยู่จริงสิ่งที่ไม่มีอยู่จริงเราไม่สามารถมีได้หรือละมันได้ something that's not exist something that's only convention something that is only concept we cannot eliminate it the thing that we have to eliminate is the titti atta titti the wrong perception the wrong perception of atta สิ่งที่เราจะต้องละก็คือความคิดเห็นผิดว่ามีตัวมีตนต่างหากครับคือสิ่งที่เราจะต้องละแล้วก็ความคิดเมื่อเรามีความคิดเห็นผิด when we have a wrong perception of self that's how we attach to it พอเรามีความคิดเห็นผิดว่าเป็นตัวเป็นตนนี่คือสาเหตุที่ทำให้เรายึดมั่นถือมั่นในสิ่งนั้นเพราะเราคิดเห็นผิดไงครับเพราะฉะนั้นสิ่งที่ละไม่ใช่อัตตาสิ่งที่ละก็คือความคิดเห็นผิดอันแรกอันที่สองคือความยึดมั่นถือมั่นในสิ่งที่เราคิดเห็นผิด so the thing we have to eliminate or demolish or abandon number one is the self perception the wrong perception about self number two the attachment to the idea of self so those are kilesa, those are defilement ความคิดเห็นที่ผิดนั่นแหละคือสิ่งที่เราจะต้องละและเป็นกิเลสอุปทาน attachment those are the mental defilement คือกิเลสที่เราจะต้องละไม่ใช่อัตตา not the อัตตา not the self because there is no self ไม่มีอะไรเป็นอัตตาไม่มีอะไรเป็นตัวเป็นตนที่แท้จริงแล้วเราจะไปละได้ยังไงเราไม่สามารถไป deal we cannot deal with something that does not exist so this is what is cover of the true nature of all existence or what we call it the Trilakhana which is the law of the nature the true nature that one must try to investigate and understanding and the process of investigation is taught by our Buddha our Lord Buddha that is the insight meditation the Anapanasati the Satipatthana or the four foundation of the mindfulness can disclose the true nature and the greatest true nature that the Buddha that is taught in only the Buddhism is anatta and the idea of the atta has become a greatest knowledge in the Buddhism and considered as a high Dhamma or the highest knowledge of the Buddhism and has been a methodology for the liberation for the freedom from the suffering freedom from death and birth freedom from the impermanent nature freedom from the suffering nature with the greatest knowledge understanding investigation of the anatta we will see that there is no self so the one who are clinging something that non-self are really foolish the exist of the Buddha the declare the statement that the Buddha declare has become a greatest statement in the Buddhism we call it Apisavacha เป็นวาจาของพระพุทธเจ้าที่ประกาศให้อิสรภาพกับชาวโลก and that is a knowledge of anatta that I have brought for you guys today I wish our discussion today will give a clear view of understanding the law of the nature which is anicca dukkha and especially the anatta and I hope you guys get some clearly understanding about the greatest concept the greatest teaching of the Buddha today and I would like to thank everybody watching this program and we will come back to see you again next Saturday early morning. I will pass this back to Ajahn Thawachai, please.
ยังชัดโอเค